A mysterious woman harvests an explosive egg and gives it to one of her disciples named Nazuna. Then we see a scientist named Nakayami conducting some experiments, after which the Zanbani ship is attacked by an army of northern government ships. Nakayami loads herself into a jet and distracts the enemy, while the commander Ishu watches on. Now we see Akiyuki Takehara and his mom Fusa, who are living under average conditions. Akiyuki sets off for school, but first he has to deliver to his scientist dad Ryuzo. Then we see a girl named Haru Nishimura dominating her martial arts opponent Furuichi. Akiyuki almost crashes into a bunny named Roppa, but avoids the accident and heads to his dad's office. Ryuzo is shown to be a lazy doctor, so Akiyuki wakes him abruptly. They have a brief chat and then he rushes to school. Senton Island seems to be in a constant state of war, as the students are thoroughly checked before entering the bus. Now, Akiyuki meets Furuichi and Haru, after which he notices Nazuna as well. She doesn't have a verified armband, so our hero lets her inside by giving her the one he has. Unfortunately, Nazuna causes an explosion in the bus and injects Akiyuki with a ZAM gene. She reveals the truth, after which she places a mask on Akiyuki. This triggers a transformation, and he turns into an overpowered ZAMmed monster. A guard shoots at him while Haru watches on in disbelief. Akiyuki remains unharmed and asks to live, but then the area is attacked by an enemy ship. Haru defends Akiyuki, while an enemy monster known as a human form invades the area. The guards try to fight it, but they are no match for its overpowered laser beams. It attacks Akiyuki and throws him into a pool of water, but he activates his shield and begins to fight back. An intense battle follows, while Haru catches up to them. Akiyuki is smacked away, and then Haru tries to defend him. However, she gets attacked by the monster, so Akiyuki saves her and brutally defeats the monster. That's when Nakayami appears and poisons him with Hiroko stones. He says that he wants to live, so she turns him back into his human body and knocks out Haru to make her escape. Ishu and her crew patiently wait for Nakayami, and then she arrives with the new recruit. She tends to Akiyuki's SAMmed arm and tries to cure it, but struggles to do so. Akushiba spies on them, but is bitten by Roppa for peeking. Haru feels bad for having lost Akiyuki, but is determined to get him back. Meanwhile, Dr. Ryuzo tends to his patients, but is told by his wife that Akiyuki has gone missing. He wants to help, but is unable to do so as he has too many patients. Now we see Dr. Kamba meeting Captain Kakisu and talks about the recent incident. Then he reveals an evil god monster that has been powered by ZAMmed. During their conversation, Nazuna is revealed to be a follower of Ruikonism, which is a religious cult. Then the commanders and Kakisu discuss human form monster weapons as a way to protect Senton Island. Meanwhile, Ishu and the others continue their journey as Nakayami educates Akiyuki about the monster living inside his arm. Now Haru and her sister Midori are reunited with their father, and then they find Ryuzo looking for his son. Then Akiyuki is introduced to Ishu's team of postal workers and is told by Akushiba that he has to work with them to take on the human form monsters. Ishu and Nakayami have an argument over Akiyuki, while he has an awkward encounter with the kids. Akushiba takes our hero to Kiselji so that he can be allotted some work, but Akiyuki doesn't like his new life here. He gets into a heated discussion with Ishu as she wants him to do as she says, and then he takes off his bandage. Akiyuki starts to transform, and things get worse when a human form monster attacks them and takes him away. Nakayami chases after the monster and infects it with her poison. She manages to free Akiyuki, who is able to control his Hiroko form. Ishu takes down the beast with a finisher move after our heroes escape, and then Akiyuki decides to do as he is told. Later, Haru meets Fusa and reassures her that her son is still alive. Now, Akushiba tells Akiyuki about another ZAMmed named Raigyo and says that he is being treated as his replacement. Meanwhile, a human form user controls one of the Hiroko monsters as he battles an army of soldiers. He tries to give it his all, but then more soldiers arrive and defeat the monster by freezing it into a stone. Akiyuki is woken up from a nightmare and is taken to meet the spiritual guide whom Nakayami refers to as Madam Tenshin. She tells Akiyuki that the only person who can save him is Sanova, who is the founder of the religious cult. However, she has gone into exile, so it will be difficult to find her. Meanwhile, Ishu tries to come up with a battle plan to counter the Northern Army. Akiyuki decides to work with the team for now and entertains them with his skills. Haru meets Furuichi and Midori, after which they witness the aftermath of a deadly attack. Back at the ship, Akiyuki remains determined to deliver mail to his hometown and motivates the others to help him out. Madam Tenshin asks him quite a few questions, but he doesn't seem to have any answers for her. One day, Akiyuki tries to help Kiselji clean the ship, but then they are attacked by a smokescreen. A Tessek ship arrives, so Nakayami wants to get into her jet and contact them. However, Ishu doesn't want her to lose her way, and it leads to an ugly argument. Akiyuki offers a vague answer to Madam Tenshin, and she decides to put him under Nakayami's care. On the island, Ryuzo meets Proi Sukaki, who tells him about an anti-human form facility. He's not interested at first, but then she mentions Kakisu, and he changes his mind. Then, we see members of the Jibashiri harvesting Hiruko from dead bodies. Akiyuki continues writing letters to the northern government, even though he doesn't wish to do so. Meanwhile, Ishu and Captain Am discuss what to do if Nakayami decides to abandon them. Kakisu and Preuss talk about Ryuzo, and then Kanban says that he's finally found a subject for his experiments. Nakayami decides to leave the ship, and meets Zeijend along with her other folk. She talks to him about the YOY contexts, and he says that Sanova is still alive. Then he mentions the son named Kujireka, who plans to retake the Holy Land. Nakayami worries about this, so Zeijend gives her a special seed. Now Kanchan reveals that his test subject is a girl named Shidara, who had recently lost her mother to the war. Kakisu is enraged by this, but the mad scientist reasons that everything is fair for him. Akiyuki meets Ishu, who tells him about the first time she met Nakayami. Meanwhile, Akushiba rushes to deliver some mail for our hero. Zeijend meets Ishu and gives Nakayami back to her. The Cloud Rider is upset to have been abandoned again and refuses to talk to anyone, including Akiyuki. Back on the island, Haru and Furuichi see Shidari and try to console her, but she transforms into a human monster and attacks them. Some of the army reinforcements arrive to fight her, and a fierce battle follows. Shidara is eventually taken down, but Kakisu hesitates before delivering the final blow. Now, we see Furuichi in an ASP suit, getting trained by Preuss, and then Haru is summoned for the same task. Ishu and the team spot something suspicious, and Akiyuki wants to help, but Nakayami takes off by herself. Akushiba decides to have some fun, so he pushes Akiyuki into her jet. They come across multiple human form monsters that seem dead, but one of them is still alive. Nakayami attacks it, so Akiyuki activates his arm to save her after a brief battle. However, she berates him for killing the human form rather than waiting for her to dismantle it. Meanwhile, Haru receives a letter from Akiyuki, and it uplifts her, so she sends a reply immediately. Akushiba explains to Akiyuki that human form monsters used to be living beings as well, and it makes him feel guilty. Now, Haru delivers Akiyuki's letters to his parents, and they breathe a sigh of relief. After she leaves, Ryuzo tells his wife that he was one of the doctors who helped create the human form monsters, but he regrets his decision. Then a test-type Zamd is unleashed upon the trainees, much to Kakisu's dismay. The beast manages to break through all the barriers, and things aren't looking good for the commanders. It seemingly stops at one point, but then it unleashes a gas explosion to break out of the facility and confront the trainees. It also happens to be payday, and Ishu acts generously with her crew members, except for Akiyuki. Haru and the others prepare to take on the Zamd, Hiruko, but Kanban seems to care more about his beast, so the team activates its jetpacks to attack it. However, it manages to create a barrier, and then it sets its eyes on a tower with a giant eye. Haru spots that the monster is pregnant and urges the others to stop, but unfortunately, they kill the mother and the baby as well. Akiyuki gets tons of letters from his friends and family, but the one that stands out the most is Haru's. She informs him about her new mission, and then we see her with Preuss, who advises her not to show any compassion for the Zammed creatures. Akiyuki wants to visit Haru, so Ishu allows him to leave, but suggests talking to Nakayami first. After a brief chat, he takes off with Roppa and sets off to Tsumebara Mountain Pass. At the same time, Kakesu tells Haru and Furuichi to go to the same place in order to find some missing ASPs. Akiyuki and Roppa explore the forest and run into an injured man. He transforms into a human form after hearing about Tsumebara and attacks our hero. He uses his monster arm to fight back, but the beast is eventually taken down by a child named Kyo and his dad. Then Nakayami goes looking for Akiyuki as his tracker stops beeping. She comes across the human form monster that attacked him, and then she finds his bag in a nearby cabin. Koi and his dad guide Akiyuki to the mountain pass, but also warns him against trusting anyone. As Haru and Furuichi begin their mission, Akiyuki decides to leave Roppa with Koi and sets out to the mountain as well. The trainees find some green soul stones, and then Haru locates an ASP suit that has been covered with plants. She is attacked by a human form, so Furuichi shoots at it and saves her. Haru runs away and is surprised to find Akiyuki, but they get attacked by the human form monster again. Akiyuki unleashes his overpowered hand and defeats it with ease. However, Furuichi threatens to shoot his own friend as he thinks of him to be a demon. Luckily, Raigyo arrives in his Zammed form and allows our hero to escape. However, his arm gets poisoned and is about to turn to stone. Luckily, Nakayami reaches just in time to help him. Now, Furuichi makes his report to Kakesu, while Haru is berated for disobeying orders. Our heroes return to the ship, and then Raigyo makes a dramatic entrance. Now that everyone is together, the Zambani takes off and Raigyo makes his reacquaintance with his old friends. Then he has a drink with Kiselji and visits Madame Tenshin. He reveals that he managed to stop himself from turning to stone, but still hasn't found all the answers to his questions. Later, Raigyo meets Akiyuki, who has started to recover from his condition. Meanwhile, Furuichi breaks his friendship with Haru, and then Kanban decides to work on the final level of the monster evolution. At the ship, Akiyuki is ordered around by Raigyo while he takes a lavish bath. Now that he's fully groomed, Raigyo has a meal with the others, but Akiyuki is neglected. Then Haru tells Kakesu that she believes Akiyuki to be human, but the commander tells her to focus on her mission instead. Akiyuki and Akushiba spot Roppa and Raigyo in Nakayami's room, and it makes them curious. Raigyo shows her an image of the sun maid, and then they have a little chat. A flashback to 5 years earlier shows how Raigyo was infected with the Zammed gene. Nakayami tried to save him, but to no avail. And that was when Am found the injured warriors and took them to Ishu. Now Haru gets her ID card issued, but doesn't seem to be happy with her new life. Raigyo entertains the children with tales of his travel, and it makes Akiyuki jealous. Then the APS trainees begin their sessions and Furuichi is easily the most impressive student. Fusa is visited by Ryuzo, who says that it won't be possible to track their son as a letter came from an illegal ship. Ishu and the team decide to dress up for a group picture, and Nakayami stuns the boys with her good looks. Kakesu meets Haru at night and issues a final warning to her by saying he will take Midori if she doesn't deliver results. As Raigyo educates Akiyuki some more, Haru has a family dinner with her dad and Midori. A flashback shows us how Haru had to deal with the loss of her mother and her sister's accident when she was just a child. Now she gives herself a haircut and makes a difficult decision. The Zambani has some uninvited guests, so Raigyo decides to test out Akiyuki's powers. He brings out his monster arm and prepares for the human form beast. However, Nakayami sets out to stop the monster without killing it. Akiyuki jumps onto the human form and gets the magic seed from Nakayami to put into the creature. However, it still explodes without regaining its human body. Suddenly, our heroes are attacked by more enemy ships who release monsters upon them. So Raigyo transforms into his overpowered avatar and attacks his opponents. He dominates them with ease, and then Am decides to help his friend by firing at the enemy ships. The Zambani seems to be dominating the battle at first, but then it is invaded by many human forms. Ishu and Am lead the counterattack, while Raigyo and Akiyuki continue fighting the flying monsters. Suddenly, Am is shot, so Ishu tells Nakayami to protect those who can't fight. As the encounter grows in intensity, Ishu runs into the leader of the opposition and gets into a standoff with her. She eventually shoots down the culprit, and then we see Nakayami crying over all the lives lost in this battle. Meanwhile, Furuichi has been infected with a Zamd in his leg and tries to avoid being seen at work. Suddenly, the black spirit attacks Nakayami, but ends up giving her some clarity. Then, we see Ryuzo searching for Kakesu. He is redirected to the commander, and they get into a brief war of words. Ryuzo decides to leave, even though Kakesu offers to help look for his son. Now Ishu and the others give their enemy a funeral, and Nakayami asks to speak with their boss later at night. She tells Akiyuki that she's going back to the Tesek village, and he decides to join her if Ishu allows them to leave. The women meet in a secluded spot, and Nakayami reveals that the black spirit has found and violated her. Ishu seems unaffected by this, and allows her to leave without any hesitation. Madame Tension also motivates Akiyuki to seek independent thinking, so our lead heroes bid farewell to the crew. Later, Haru goes to visit Furuichi and asks for some advice, but he tries to send her home. She enters his room anyway and tries to cheer him up despite seeing his zammed leg. Furuichi finally gives up the facade and hugs her in an emotional moment. And that's the end of part 1. Like, share, and subscribe to show some love, and I'll get back to you with part 2 ASAP. Tap the bell icon for notifications too. See you later!